got myself a copy of R-Type 3 for the Game Boy Advance. That's awesome. I mean, can't fucking afford it for the goddamn SNES, but I got myself a copy for the R-Type for only $14. And what's great is most of the ports on the SNES to the GBA have been pretty stellar, other than the sound, but that's okay. So let's see. Oh, we got the book and everything. That is badass. So, you know, I have no doubt in my mind this is going to be an excellent port. I mean, why am I wasting time? Let's get it out of the plastic bag, get in my GBA, and let's get ready to blast some Bydo scum.
A few moments later.
Hi, Forever Rich Radio 2 here. So basically what you just saw is a reenactment of how I felt when I first purchased R-Type 3 on the Game Boy Advance. I bought it off eBay for $14, and it was either late 2004 or early 2005. I don't remember, because usually when I play a game and I enjoy it thoroughly, or I enjoy it to some degree, I pretty much remember when I purchased the game. But for some reason, when it comes to this port, I can only think between late 2004 to early 2005. So, yeah, so this port here absolutely breaks my heart. And the reason is because I'm a huge R-Type fan. And it is probably my second favorite shoot-'em-up series of all time. Gradius will always be king, and then Darius, of course, is the third. I would say Thunder Force is on there, but we don't see any of those anymore. If I had to, though, fourth tier would be Thunder Force, because Technosoft did a damn good job when they were making those games on the Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive if you're European and PAL countries. So, you know, having played the SNES version, you'd think, okay, why didn't you buy the SNES version? It was bloody expensive. I just didn't have the money at the time. I wasn't working very many hours at my job, and I only, I had to pay rent, and I also had to take care of responsibilities as an adult. So I would only have pretty much chump change. I would be lucky if I had $20 out of every paycheck to buy something for myself. Most of the time, my whole check would go to rent because of the little hours I worked at my job. So I went ahead and I had some spending money, and I went to my favorite playground, and it's still one of my favorite playgrounds. I go to eBay, and I was looking at Game Boy Advance games because I was looking to expand my collection, right? And I came across R-Type 3, and it said complete in box, manual, everything. And I was like, oh, well, hot diddly damn. It said the box was in rough condition, and I mean, come on, just it looks like it's been through the ringer. I still don't understand why Nintendo, other than price, does not make plastic like boxes like the Genesis did. I think it is cost measure, and you can get some fan-made covers online. I think they're overly priced, but because it's just plastic, for fuck's sake. But I guess they got to make a profit, right? So I just keep them in my boxes and put them in my bookcase. It's a done deal. And if the games don't have a box, I just leave them loose, because what harm is it going to do? So I couldn't afford the SNES version because it was always going for like 28, 30, and in some places 40, because it was a high tier quality game. It was fantastic, and it was also a late release. It was released in late '94, and it's like, I noticed games that were released after '94 were basically the higher the price would go up. Like Boogerman on the SNES was expensive. I mean, now it's just, you better have your whole paycheck goes to one game these days. It's why I don't condone collecting for retro gamers unless you're just that much of an enthusiast and an elitist. To me, I mean, like I mentioned playing before, if you buy, like for instance, I bought the Goemon games, they were repros. If you buy repros, there should be no shame in that, because the amount of pricing that is within the retro market is just unfair to some of us who have to pay bills. And thanks to our economy, due to a certain incompetent fuckface that's in the White House, it kind of makes it a little harder to do, Anyways, so I'm going to show some short gameplay of this port. But before we do that, we have to show the original. So you can have just a little idea of the differences between this masterpiece in this clusterfuck. So, with that being said, let's go to the gameplay footage, shall we? Alright, so here's the SNES version of R-Type 3. I love that. It's just so awesome. I gotta hear the gling though before I start. It makes me happy. Ah, glorious. I love that. Simple details like that make me smile. Anyways, here's where you get to choose your pod. You have 3 different ones to choose from. You have your traditional round force, which is I use all the time because I'm used to it. The laser type, and then you have a prototype. It's called the Cyclone Force. It even tells you in the rollout it's the prototype. Some people really like it. I need to get used to it, but I stick with what I know, so I choose the round force. They're all useful in their own little way. I mean, go ahead and experiment which ones that will prefer your play style. I'm going with traditional, and this intro is dope. Ah, yes, so good. Call it simple, but I call it effective. Now listen to these tunes. This is rockin' hard SNES metal. And they say the SNES can't do metal. I know it sounds cheap and kind of not like, I guess for some of you Genesis fans, not so great, but goddamn, I still think it gives me that adrenaline rush I need to blast some Bydo scum out of existence. You have your charge shot, and you can also pick 2 different types. You have hyper, which if you charge all the way, let's try that again. Which if you charge all the way, it basically allows you to give you a power shot, but also it has a cooldown period. So you can sit here and blow like just a shit ton of fun. But unfortunately, it doesn't last forever. See, now it goes through what is a cooldown period. You can't charge your shot now, so you're kind of fucked. So, I mean, a lot of people prefer the hyper shot. I prefer the original, the beam. Because then I can just charge it and use it time and time again. And that fucker just crashed right into that shit and blew up. I mean, what is there not to like? It's R-Type, man. I mean, when they made this game, they wanted it to be something special. And unlike its predecessor, you have infinite continues. And you have checkpoints. I'll show you a little bit more, and then I'll show you why the other version is not so hot. But yeah, you got these kick-ass melodies going. Familiar weapons, familiar territory. I mean, I remember when I first rented this game at Video Castle. I fired this motherfucker up, and I was just in love immediately. Because I was so disappointed by Super R-Type. I mean, most people were. I mean, that game was just slow. It had no checkpoints. That's probably its fatal flaw. It's not a horrible game, but it just needs work. But this video ain't about Super R-Type. This is about this is the R-Type 3, man. The bee's knees. But yeah, you got some dope-ass Mode 7 effects. There's this one Mode 7 effect I want to get to before I cut this version off. That I find still impressive to this day. It's coming up pretty soon. I know the stage seems slow, but compared to what we're going to see, this is actually warp speed. I mean, the SNES was known for slowdown because of its 3.58 megahertz processor. But there are ways around it, just like there are ways around the Genesis and its lack of scaling. They had to do it all in software. But see, look, a checkpoint. Isn't that awesome? Now this part's cool. Take a look at the background. I mean, that scaling is amazing for this system. I mean, for any system that's a home console, I mean, it blew me away. I mean, you've seen, like, similar effects on, say, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, but you see, like, moving parts and mechanical shit. It just blew my fucking socks off when I first saw this shit. I'm like, this can't... I'm like, this at this point is when I said the Super Nintendo just can't die. Alright, I think I've shown enough footage for you guys to see how awesome this game is. I could go on it forever. I mean, it's got plenty of Mode 7 effects in the very first stage. You got plenty to look at. You got a rocking soundtrack. I mean,
this was
published by DSI, and the creator was actually Ray Light. Every good side. It wasn't Irem themselves, unlike the first game. And I forgot to mention that the first game was published by Jaleco. I don't know if Irem lost their publishing license or what. But a lot of companies did this during the late 90s. Now, you got this splash screen, and it looks promising. It looks promising, but then you press start. Promising, once more. And you get the cling right away. Once again, promising. And there, you may notice there's a resume function. That's because this game has a password system. So if you fucking get owned in the first, second, third, fourth, or sixth stage, you can go ahead and resume by putting in a password, which is only 4 characters. I'll show that real fast. Okay, 5 characters. But you know what I mean. It's nice. It's nice. So anyways, let's go to new game. So far, everything looks according to plan. Looks like exactly like the SNES version. The sound is a little different. So, well, go ahead. Pick the round force, but I'm telling you, as soon as you pick your force, your expectations are going to go down the shitter. Especially if you didn't read magazines like I didn't back when this game came out. Prepare for... Just watch. What in good God's fucking name is this crap? This is not our type. This is crap type. Look how slow this shit. Look how slow it is. Listen to this horrible music. The only thing I can say that's good about it is the controls. They work. They're fine. But this is slow. This sounds like shit. What the hell am I playing? This isn't our type. This is a waste of $14 fucking dollars. How can anyone spend money on this shit and think they got a good deal? Because their expectations were high. I mean, I probably should have looked up video game reviews for this game, but I didn't because during the N64 and PlayStation days, I stopped reading magazines because they all had bias towards the PlayStation, and you cannot deny that. I mean, you still have the hyper and the actual beam, but this music is just awful. I don't want to talk too much because I just want you all to take it in. It's terrible. I mean, yeah, you got the explosion, but it doesn't have that much effect. The SNES had that nice little slowdown effect and gave it that little oomph. I mean, it sounds like they have like a fucking DOS MIDI keyboard and they tried to make it sound sort of like the first stage of R-Type 3. Now, this game is awfully criticized for its collision detection. Your hitbox is way too fucking big. I mean, it'll be lovely if you could defeat the first stage without using a continue. I'm going to try to get as far as I did on the SNES version so you can see that effect and see if it holds up. Because I'll be honest, I haven't really touched this game since I bought it. I played it. I played through the first stage. I turned it off. I didn't want to play it anymore. Because this is terrible. This is not our type. Now, how did I accumulate the SNES version? Well, I had a friend bought it for me. He was a DC emulation.org member. I believe his name his name, I don't know, I can't pronounce it right. It's like Scherezzo. It stands for joke in Italian or something. He made the Super Famicast, which was basically a Super Nintendo emulator for the Dreamcast that was supposed to surpass the Dream SNES, and obviously he didn't, but he tried, so yeah. He woke, I heard my, like, aim go ape shit one day, and I was like, hey, and he was like, hey, dude, you around? I'm like, no, what's up? He's like, yeah, he's like, I remember how you and I talked last, and you're telling me how much you love R-Type 3, and you bought the GBA game, and it was highly disappointing. I'm like, because it was. He's like, I went ahead and bought you the SNES version. I'm like, dude, why? Well, to be fair, I bought him a copy of Journey to Silius on the NES because he always wanted to own it, and it came with the manual, and it was in pristine condition for $6. I mean, granted, my copy was $2, but I didn't have the manual. But yeah, this is just slow and shit. I mean, I don't know if this was intentional because, you know, you're playing on the handheld. So, you know, just like the original Game Boy, how it had the glare effect, but the games were slow, so it wouldn't be as pronounced. Yeah, how the fuck did that thing blow up? I see what I mean. See, the hitboxes are just they're all over the place here. It's not just you; it's also the enemies. Their hitboxes are huge. I mean, that's cool in your favor, but not so much in your favor. It's both good and bad, so it's like a double-edged sword. But if you like have the stomach to play this shit. Now, as you can tell, the Game Boy has cleaner scale. Where's the big laser? Oh, there it is. Look how slow it is, too. Holy balls. What the fuck have I... This is just so heartbreaking, man. I had such high hopes. I was like, this is going to be as good or close to as good as the SNES version. And it is not in any way, shape, or form. Shit, I forgot about that. Oh, it opens. That's right. Derp. Actually, I don't think it opens on the SNES version. I think it just goes to close and you have to, like, rush. So they fixed that, at least. We're going to go to the spinny part. See if it looks as good, if not the same as the SNES version. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't have much to say, because, I mean, I think the gameplay just speaks for itself. I don't really need a commentary on this shit. It's awful. I mean, the scaling is smooth, yes. I will give it that, because, well, the Game Boy Advance had better scaling effects than the SNES. And rightfully so. It's a quote-unquote 32-bit system. Sprite-based, and I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. I remember a lot of, like, Game Informer and other places were bitching, no, the Game Boy Advance is only sprites. So what? You know how many Sprite indie games exist now on Steam and shit? Oh my gentle Jesus. That looks absolutely terrible. You do have moving parts, but it's not nearly as effective as the SNES version. You don't have as many moving parts either. You just have that blue laser that was on the left side of the screen. I mean, what the hell is this? What is this? Is this supposed to be R-Type? To me, this is not R-Type. This is crap. Now, before I end this video, we honestly can't blame Raylight for what they did here. And I have some trivia to tell you. Now, I don't have any sources that I could give you, but I've read some sources before they were either deleted or moved. And those sources are that the original source code for this game was either destroyed or deleted, or, well, that's pretty much the same thing. But Irem did not have the source code for this game. So what Raylight Studio basically had to do was use this game as kind of like a blueprint. They had to play the game and copy it piece by piece, frame by frame, and you know, sound by sound, and basically try to emulates this. It's not exactly a true port because there was no source code to be had in order to make it. So, I mean, I don't necessarily blame Raylight for doing this. I blame Irem for losing the source code. That is absolutely unacceptable in any standards. They gave him nothing to work with. This port was doomed to fail before it was even launched. It's a shit version. They should have just canceled it. They should have just canned it. Said, you know, we don't have the source code. This is not going to be a one-to-one port to the SNES version, so we might as well just cut it. I would have more respect for Ray Studios for that. So, half of how I feel about Ray Studios is the one half, I give them credit for trying. The other half, they should have just fucking canceled it. And they lose some respect points for me for doing so. But there's no reason for the music to be as bad as it is. The music is absolutely... Who out there, tell me in the comments, Who out there could see yourself jamming the fucking soundtrack to the GBA version? If you like the GBA version soundtrack, I'll upload it. So I can laugh at you. Because I'm sorry. There is nothing good about the Game Boy Advance version. Except for the fact that it's portable and it has a password system. Whoop-de-fucking-do. The game was only 6 stages, and then you have to replay the 6 stages, so it pulls the ghouls and ghosts, or ghosts and goblins, whatever kind of game you like in the series, where you have to basically go through the game once, and then go through it a second time, and it's a little harder. All to be told, the end. That's the ending. I shit you not. The ending of R-Type is, in the first ending, it shows your plane zooming back to the planet, and it says Advanced Mission Start. And then when you beat it again, it shows the exact same ending sequence as you saw before, except this time it says the words, the end. That's it. See, in my opinion, if you just play through the 6 stages of the game, to me, I consider R-Type being beat by that person. It took me 6 hours to beat the game for the first time. Because it is a tough fucking game. All R-Type games are ridiculously hard. All of them are, especially the second game. I'll never get anywhere in R-Type 2. The arcade game, especially the arcade game. Now, the ports, on the other hand, like the Game Boy port, I can get pretty far in. The original Game Boy port, but the arcade game, forget it. That game is just brutal. You have to learn the levels piece by piece, pixel by pixel, safe zones, dead zones. And I don't have the patience for that. I never did. I like R-Type 2. I think it's a badass sequel, but it's not something for a person like me who's not very good at video games to be playing. I mean, I'm pretty sure if I would have played for maybe a year, I could get a handle of it to the point where I can actually finish it. But after I finish it, I'd probably be like, I'd lock it away somewhere and forget about it. But yeah, but like I mentioned it before, when it comes to the Super Nintendo version, I saw it at Video Castle, and I did not know there was a sequel to Super R-Type. Because I was with the familiar thought that R-Type games were arcade games. They were never, they had ports on the consoles, yes, but they never had their own original game until R-Type 3 came out. So, I mean, I saw that on the shelf. I'm like, R-Type 3, what? I did not see it in magazines at the time. I didn't have a subscription to magazines even back in 94. The last time I had a subscription was GamePro, and that was back in 1993. And this game came out in late 94. I saw it at Video Castle, and it blew my mind. I was like, oh, fuck yeah, and it was in. So, I took my happy fat ass to the counter with the empty case, took it there, and took it home and rented it for the weekend, and loved the hell out of it. Got to stage 4, and I couldn't get any more past stage 4, because that game was tough. But then when my friend Scherzo, I believe that's his name, how you pronounce it, I could be wrong, it's Italian, bought me a copy. I mean, I want to say a week after owning it, I said, okay, I got nothing to do. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna turn off my computer, and it's just gonna be me and R-Type. I started at midnight, and I got done around 6:25. I made sure to write that shit down because that game was so fucking hard to the point where I just wanted to scream. But it was, I mean, I beat the first loop. I didn't beat the second, because I as soon as I found out that, I mean, you gotta think, this is before YouTube. There was no YouTube at the time, and you didn't know any of that. I just figured, well, okay, the game's over, so now it's gonna pull a Gradius, and I'm just gonna have to go ahead and I can play it if I want to. But then later I found out that all it is it's a little harder, and when you beat it, it just says the end. I mean, I don't get it. I just don't understand it. But whatever. I mean, it's a great fucking game. The SNES version is definitely worth your time. I mean, if you can get it, repro, or you got an EverDrive, I'd suggest throwing that fucker on there if you don't have a full ROM list on there already. Or if there's, I don't know if they have it on Switch or not, because I don't use their online service. I don't care for it. I don't even use my Switch very often. It's just sitting there collecting dust. But my wife plays it once in a while, so there's that. But yeah, that's it's heartbreaking, guys. I mean, I know I'm harping on it bad because that's just truth. They should have just canceled it. They should, in the kind of state that it was in. If that story is true, that of all the sources I've read from different forums and whatnot are honest about R-Type 3's creation on the Game Boy Advance, they should have just killed it. But I guess they needed to make some money. I mean, after all, you know, it's a cutthroat world out there in terms of video gaming, and, you know, if you can make some money, that'd be great. And if you can't, well, that's at a loss, isn't it? Anyways, so I'm Forever Retro 82. I hope you enjoyed this story, kind of retrospective on R-Type 3 on the Game Boy Advance, and basically how it was for me. And yeah, don't bother with that version of the game. It is not worth your time. It is terrible. I mean, unless you like really bad games and you like bad ports, then yeah, by all means, buy yourself a copy. But, you know, if you're a real man or a real woman and you enjoy shooters or shoot 'em ups, you get the original version. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video for what it was worth. And I'll see you guys in the next one. And remember to keep gaming, keep loving, and keep it retro. And until next time, take care.
Thank you for watching my video. If you liked what you saw and would like to support my channel, please consider being a patron. I'll put your name up with these fine folks who have donated to this channel, and that would be awesome to have you on board. If not, that's entirely up to you. I hope you have a good day and take care.